So here's the intro for today's video. This is a Spinistry riding everyday experiment. The idea, Shawn, is that we're just going to pedal along at what's essentially recovery rate, casual conversation rate, and we're just going to chat. And we can extract the audio and turn that into a podcast or multiple podcasts if we find different things that make different segments. And for folks that are just working on a trainer or whatever else, they can watch the video of the trail as we're chatting and listen to the audio as well. So this will not be a tremendous workout by any stretch of the imagination, and anybody that's following along, this is definitely an experiment with the technology. So we'll see what happens here. Did my GoPro go off? Let's try that again. Maybe I forgot to turn that on. I think I turned the power on, didn't turn the camera on.
I saw you press the top.
Did you?
I did. Battery looks low.
I charged it fully last night. You're right. Look at that. Interesting.
The GoPro batteries are the worst.
Yes.
They are the worst.
Yes.
Have you gotten the new, like the extreme condition white one?
No. This is actually a borrowed GoPro. So.
Okay.
Well, we'll get whatever footage we can.
We'll find out what happens.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. So we'll kind of go side-ish by side-ish. You just a little bit off my right back a little bit. And if I do something stupid, watch out for me.
That's right. I'll do my best not to take you out.
I'll do my best not to take you out.
No armadillos today.
No armadillos. Well, at least it's not 110 degrees yet.
No, it's actually pleasant this morning.
Breeze feels good. Well, yeah, this is going to be disappointing if the GoPro doesn't work, because that was going to be like my fallback footage for everything. Oh well.
I've got my GoPro in the car. I don't know.
Nah.
But then again, I think the battery's dead on it.
We'll run a slideshow of pictures if we have to.
There you go.
And should get an odd. So the 360 camera, I think at the video setting I have it on, it'll go like 20 or 30 minutes and then it'll shut down automatically, so we'll have to restart it.
Does it give you an audible beep?
It'll give us an audio tone. There's a lower resolution setting where it should go continuous for 90 minutes, but I'm trying this one out to see what it's like. Well, a little bit more berm than they had before. All right, so like I said, this is my first time riding outdoors all summer long. I've been off the bike for a bit because of injury, but I have been definitely doing the indoor trainer route, the Zwift stuff, and that's part of what I wanted to chat with you about. I know you are a fan of the indoor training regimen, or have been in the past.
I'm a big fan.
Okay.
It's easy to get a lot done in a short amount of time, and especially early in the morning.
What percentage of your riding currently would you say is indoors?
Oh, right now probably like 60-70%.
Okay.
I have not, due to a couple bike issues, maintenance, and repairs being done, I'm limited to just a single speed at the moment, and most of the time when I ride outdoors, I'll ride my bike from the house to, you know, the Frisco Trail, it's about 3.5, 5 miles away, somewhere in that range. And single speed, it's just not the most fun to ride from point to point, you know, not on a trail. So most of what I'm riding right now is indoor on the trainer.
Okay. But that's not your trainer bike's not the single speed, or you use the same bike?
No, I've got so I bought a really nice aerodynamic carbon road bike, perfect for racing, and ever since I bought it, it has been stuck in a trainer ever since.
Permanently on the trainer? Permanently.
It's never seen, I think it might have seen about 3 rides total in about the 6 years I've had it.
Understood.
Outside.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way in that I use a dedicated bike on the trainer.
Absolutely.
It just makes,
well, especially,
it makes it just so much simpler just to go, okay, I've got an hour.
Yep.
I'm going to get on the bike now, and everything's ready to go.
Yep. And if you're riding every day, you know, that's, you know, that can be a time-consuming process to put the bike on, take the bike off, move it indoors, move it outdoors, all the stuff.
What trainer setup are you using?
I've got I don't know, probably like a 2018 or 19 Wahoo Kicker with the Climb, which I am actually not a fan of the Climb.
Okay.
It great in theory, but on Zwift it has that trainer difficulty setting that nobody understands.
Right.
It also applies to the Kicker Climb, and so if you reduce that percent feel down to 20% or so, which is about what I usually run at, so I can get more out of my gearing setup. It also changes the amount that the climb adjusts on the gradients.
So what happens if you go to 100% realism?
Well, and that thing is going up and down like crazy.
That's like a pogo stick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, depending on which route you select, of course. But,
sure.
You know, you go to that 100% realism, it's going to be pushing you. You know, a 10% grade is going to feel like a 10% grade for the most part. You're up on, you know, out of the saddle, standing on the pedals. But it also reduces how far your gears will take you. And I'm a big fan of just sticking in the big ring and never moving to the small ring.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do if it's like 25% trainer difficulty.
Yeah, the way I have mine set up, it's a 2x setup, and I basically, when I'm drifting, unless I get on something really steep, I just treat it as a 2-speed.
Yep.
So I'm always in the smallest cog, and I'll switch back and forth between well, it's not a big ring, it's a compact setup, so it's not like I'm pushing a 54 tooth on the big. But
so you've got your own indoor dingle speed.
Exactly. It is a dingle speed, and I actually kind of like that setup. But I'm a masher to begin with, so I'm not one of those that, yeah. If I'm spinning 100 RPM, something's wrong. Man, it's dry out here.
Yes, it is. Been close to 2.5 months since rain.
It's crazy. I'm to the point, if I see a good storm on the radar, I may drive out to it just to hang out underneath it for a bit. But I guess we have a potential for rain today and tomorrow, maybe? I don't know. We need a bunch, though.
Yeah, we need a lot.
All right, so you mentioned Zwift.
Yep.
So I guess Zwift is your software platform / simulator of choice, is that correct?
Yeah, it's the default I turn to. I like the RGT program a lot for racing, but it's I think it's more realistic for the racing and like the overall simulation of bike mechanics, but it does not it feels like it's a very empty platform. You know, they don't have that centralized world where everybody meets up, congregates, you ride together, you've got the, you know, the pack to ride with. For the most part, RGT is a pretty solo platform.
Yeah.
And then I like Trainer Road a lot if I'm actually focused on something, which doesn't happen that often, I guess.
Yeah, the RGT lack of community issue. I'm pretty familiar with that, but yeah, I've tried RGT.
Yep.
And there's definitely stuff they bring to the mix that I like a lot. But I had a very similar experience with the Be Cool simulator software.
Right.
And that was even like 5 or 6 years ago. But they had really good simulator software, and it was great for loading a route, that a real world route.
Yep.
Worked great for that. But that difference of having 200 people to ride with on Zwift, even though it's more video gamey and not realistic, man, this is nuts.
Oh, you should see Frisco Trail.
Is it
This
like
is
that?
like this is nothing compared to that. The
Holy
cracks
moly.
there will eat you alive.
These are getting close to that. Like, I'm glad I'm not on skinny tires today.
Yeah, having the people there to keep you motivated, to keep pushing and just rolling along, it is a very motivating factor for me. But I'm also, you know, I grew up playing video games. I used to play World of Warcraft and think, man, it'd be so great if I could ride my bike through this world. And that's kind of what Zwift kind of brought to the table, is that virtual world and the exploration. Granted, they've done a terrible job of expanding it overall, but I love the concept, and I think it's, you know, it's by far the best platform that's out there right now. Although RGT, again, better dynamics,
Right.
just empty.
So, I'm going to tell you a quick story about my first experience with a, for lack of a better term, cycling simulator. So, back in the day, I mean, I've been doing indoor stuff, I want to say since 2006.
Okay.
Messed up my shoulder, so I couldn't ride. Wasn't supposed to ride for real while my shoulder healed. And I let it heal for like 3 days and started riding again. And like 3 weeks later, after it'd done some proper healing, but I mean, it was still far from recovered, had another little slip up and slipped out on it on a paved trail, just really simple. It was a wet spot that shouldn't have been there, sort of thing, and right on the paint. Bike goes out from under me and everything goes down on that shoulder again. So all the recuperation I'd done got blown out.
Over 3 days.
No, I got back on the bike after 3 days, and then like 3 weeks after that,
Oh, okay.
when I went down. So at that point, I decided I better listen to the doctor and take 6 months off like I'm supposed to. Let it heal properly. So I started doing indoor riding just to stay in shape at the time. And so short story way too long, I got in the habit of riding indoors at that point. I've been trying everything along the way.
Yeah.
Exercise bike, spin bike, trainer, rollers, all of it just mind-numbingly boring.
Yep.
And I'd found a couple of solutions along the way that helped with that, where I could force myself to do 60 minutes at a time if I absolutely had to, as opposed to just being ready to cry at 20 minutes. Well, somewhere along the way, we got a Nintendo Wii. And it had this one game, I can't remember the exact functionality of it, but by using the controller, you could simulate jogging in the Wii world.
Okay.
And so basically, I think you were supposed to run in place, and just by your arm going up and down, then the person would move. Well, my idea was to strap it to my leg and get on an exercise bike and pedal the bike and go around the Wii world while I was pedaling the bike. And it actually worked.
That's pretty cool.
So I covered a lot of ground in this, simulated jogging environment because I was doing it on a bike. And it's like, there's something here.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to do a cycling simulator that works something like this. And ultimately, it's what Zwift kind of did. But I think that was a good 5 years before Zwift existed. Well, I guess even Be Cool had their simulator before Zwift, if I understand correctly. I'm not positive on that. But all that said, the video game-ish environment that Zwift delivers, I hate to admit it works for what it does. I mean, there's lots of shortcomings there, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there aren't. But just to keep you engaged, and that community aspect of it is a huge part of that.
Huge.
Because even with the best simulators, if you're just out there pedaling by yourself and not accomplish anything with a group or whatever,
Yep.
it turns into a beatdown fairly quickly. But just riding with a pace partner on Zwift, I can do that for 90 minutes at a time.
Oh, it's great.
And just playing stupid mind tricks on myself engagement things.
Yep.
It's like, all right, I'm going to fall off the back, and then I'm just going to do a steady pace until I'm at that 45 seconds ahead, so you're still getting the bonus. Yeah, I'm still getting my
the
points.
XP bonus. Yeah,
I'm getting my points, baby.
That's right, man. That drop shop is looming large in your heart.
I just accumulate. I don't even spend the damn points, I don't think, but every once in a while.
I have a constant about 6 million drops on that game. I'll spend them on some new wheel or bike release, and then catch back up to about 6 million, and it never goes down because there's just not enough content being released.
There's not enough stuff to buy.
Yeah, and they don't do anything really. Like once you get the Tron bike, essentially, there's really not a whole lot else you need.
And I still don't have the damn Tron bike. Of course, I do so much flatland riding.
Right. Well, as you and probably anybody who knows me is well aware, I'm a huge fan of the racing simulation on there.
Yeah. What percentage of your stuff is
a race?
Is competitive / racing versus just workout mode for you?
Too much of it.
No, I hear you.
Dr. Seiler would be very
disappointed.
If he was my coach, he would be yelling at me. Let's just put it that way.
So you're basically reverse polarity, right?
Yeah, it's like 80% of what I do on Zwift is usually some form of a race or high tempo and too much effort, and then I do almost nothing at like an easy pace.
Understood.
Trying to be better about it, but
well, if it works for you, if it keeps you on the bike, if you're enjoying it.
And that's the thing, like at this point, like I'm not really training for anything specifically. It's more about just having fun and keeping up with friends who I've been racing with on there for the past 4 years.
So how does it translate to real world riding? Obviously what we're doing today doesn't really count, But like, if you do run into your friends and do an event or a social ride that, you know, always gets spunky in the mix sort of thing, how does your indoor training translate to when you are out in the real world?
I mean, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's the strongest, you know, tool in the toolkit. I mean, it's just easy, you know. I would not be riding at that tempo or with that intensity if I wasn't on Zwift, if I wasn't in that, you know, kind of a race competitive environment. And so if I go out and like on a group ride or whatever you want to call it, go do an event, I generally feel like I am one of the stronger riders, depending on said group, of course.
Of course.
But, you know, typical, you know, friend group that you ride with, things like that. Generally, I think I'm probably on the more fit and stronger side, just because of what I do on Zwift and indoors.
Are there noticeable gaps in your capabilities or your skill set, or you're on the bike for 5 minutes on the trail and you're back in the groove sort of thing, or do you get the sense sometimes that you do need more,
like the technical abilities and things?
Yeah.
I don't personally think so. You know, again, it always comes back to who are you riding with. But
and I know your friends, none of them are very technically skilled.
Yeah, I mean, generally I think I had a lot of technical skills before I started riding on Zwift, more than most. And I feel like I haven't really lost really any of that through the past couple of years of riding indoors. There was a while where, you know, all of my riding almost was indoor. And I had people always commenting like, oh, you're gonna hit the trail and be, you know, just get dropped, you know, can't turn. Never was the case. So I will say the one thing that the one downside to it is probably, you know, the Zwift starts are very notorious for being extremely hard, extremely fast, right up from the gun. And so pacing is probably the weak point that has gotten weaker because of riding on Zwift. You know, you start a race and immediately you're full throttle.
And that, you bring up a great point. That's something I doubt any Zwift engineers will ever be listening to this, but if they do, I wish they could explain to me why they haven't curtailed that, because it would be easy enough, not a neutral start per se, but I mean, just having it start like a rocket from the get-go, personally I think that's counterproductive.
Well, I'm a big fan of it, but it's also, you know, in my opinion, one of my strengths. I'm really good at short power quickly. I can sprint pretty well. And so, you know, a sprint from the start, generally pretty good. I feel like I can inflict a lot of damage on a Zwift race. And then even like, you know, in mountain biking, you're starting from the gun and it's a race to the trees.
For mountain biking, it does translate.
And same with cyclocross too, though.
Yeah, I can see that, but cyclocross doesn't count.
Nobody cares about cyclocross.
This would actually make a pretty decent cyclocross something or other. Throw a few barriers and sort of staircase or something. A long form cyclocross course out here.
So I mean, I think depending on what kind of discipline you compete in or you participate in, I think the way that the Zwift race starts, can be beneficial.
I agree. I agree now. Admittedly, I was looking at it more from the roadie grody perspective.
Yeah, and I think with respect to them, like it's, you know, it really is more a product of the way that their races are. You know, I mean, like in general, races on Zwift are going to be 30 minutes to an hour.
Right.
And that's not, you know, a road race. Traditional road race is going to be 2 hours or more. There's just not the room for, you know, for sitting in that neutral start until later. And there's also usually it's one big blob. You know, there's not a breakaway that can happen on Zwift for the most part.
Well, then I was going to go to that as the next extension of it is the power of the blob.
Yep.
Is
too strong.
It's too strong.
And which is, again, one of the reasons I like RGT for racing, because it's I think the physics of it are a lot more realistic.
Yes.
You can get that breakaway. You know, the drafting is a legitimate differentiator between people. So, but yeah, the Zwift blob is just far too strong.
So you alluded to your Zwifting now versus your Zwifting in the past. How long have you been on the Zwift platform in your different training iterations?
I think I got into it about 2017 or 18. Probably 2 years or so after it launched. At the time, it was just the Watopia Hilly route, and I think shortly after they had the flat extension, you know, they got added in.